Just briefly, I want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. I'm Jenna Mills, the Director of Alumni Engagement Programs, and a proud 2009 and 2016 graduate of Towson University. Thank you for joining us today for Building the Campus of the Future with University architect Dave Mayhew. Before I introduce David, I just want to share a few housekeeping notes. Attendees will remain muted throughout the webinar. If you have any questions, please use the chat function in your window. It's down to the bottom right of your screen. We will be monitoring the discussion throughout the session, and David will answer questions at the end of his presentation. I'd now like to introduce David Mayhew. David is a fellow architect, a fellow of the American Institute of Architects with over 40 years of experience in architecture, construction, and planning. For the last 24 years, David has served as a university architect at TU, where he oversees the design of capital improvement projects and participates in the development and implementation of the campus master plan. He is a member of the Association of University Architects, a member of the Society of College and University Planners, a LEED accredited professional, and a member of the College of Fellows of the American Institute of Architects. David, thank you for joining us today.
Okay, well, thank you, Jenna, and thanks everybody for signing up today. These unusual circumstances, I'd be able to see most of you, and I normally might ask you a show of hands who has been back to campus in the last couple of years. So without the benefit of that, I'm going to assume there's a wide variety of folks. Some of you may have been back to campus recently and are local, others maybe not. But what I'm going to do is spend maybe about a half hour or so giving you a brief summary of what's happened over the last 20 years, a quick overview of the master plan, take a look at what's going to be happening in the next 10 years, and show you some projects in progress. I'm going to turn my video off just so it's not distracting. There we go. So as Jenna mentioned, I joined Towson University about 24 years ago, and really proud of the work that we've all accomplished there together. It's really been an honor to serve in the role that I have and to be able to be part of all the amazing growth we've had. Like a lot of universities, Towson experienced their last big building boom back in the 70s, with the baby boomer generation coming to campus. So it's interesting to take a look back at the way we moved about 20 years ago. We had this building boom in the 70s where we built Smith Hall and Cook Library and Hawkins and Psychology and the core of campus and Linthicum. And this whole part of campus was constructed back then. Glen Towers was constructed in the late 70s, early 80s, the Residence Tower. But then we went into a lull, and we really didn't build anything for about another 20 years or so. And this is cyclical and typical of college campuses. But if you notice the way we used to look, we had a lot more parking lots. There's Lively Tall, the beloved elementary school that we eventually took down. But you can see that the campus of 25 years ago or so was somewhat disconnected. It really had these internal parking lots as much as anything. Buildings were aligned in the core, but otherwise not so much connected. If you take a look at an aerial view of the campus today, you can see a big difference. One of the first things we notice is how much better aerial photography has gotten. But primarily, there's a lot more green space. That's one of the goals of our master planning and our growth over the years is to basically replace parking lots with either green space or buildings. It's interesting that with the amount of growth we've had in the last 20 years, we've not really added on any contiguous geographic area to the campus. We still have about the same 340 acres that we had back then, but we have found building sites internal to campus. We've taken old parking lots and even old buildings in some cases that were demolished. But for the most part, all of our growth has been within the same boundary and footprint that we've had. That said, in the last 20 years, we've added about 2 million gross square feet of area to the campus. We've had 17 new facilities and 8 major building renovations and infrastructure improvements. The value of all of this construction over the last 20 years has been over $1 billion. And I will tell you that over the next 10 years, it's probably going to be almost another $1 billion. So Towson has really been a university on the move. And that's been intentional and strategic. About 15 years ago, the University of Maryland system looked at all of the resources and all the campuses and they recognized that there was a big demand of college kids coming with the echo baby boomer, we call it, the children of all of the baby boomers of the 70s. At the same time, they took a look at College Park and they said, why isn't our flagship university on par with UVA and UNC Chapel Hill and University of Pennsylvania and some of these other flagship universities? And there was a goal to sort of raise the status of College Park. And they capped enrollment. They said the best way to do that is we're going to cap enrollment at College Park and make it more difficult to get in, with a capped enrollment at about 25,000 undergraduate students. And that would raise the bar and make it more difficult to get in College Park. But the other part of that plan is if they're going to cap enrollment at College Park, where will all of these college echo baby boomer kids go? And Towson was identified as one of the campuses that had the capacity to grow. With that in mind, we were at about 16,000 students 20 years ago, and we're now right around 22 or 23. If you look at a model of projected master plan in 2027, you can see even more facilities. Before I move on from this photo, I guess I just want to point out some of the major projects we've done in the last 20 years. We have the Center for the Arts renovation and addition, which basically doubled the size of that building. We have the College of Liberal Arts building, which replaced Lively Hall. We have all the improvements in the athletic precinct with United Stadium and CQ Arena. We have all of the housing in the West Village that was constructed. The science building isn't even shown on this building, on this particular photograph, but it's under construction currently here on Lot 1. And then numerous renovations of internal buildings and internal facilities. The Health and Counseling Center, the former Warden West Hall, is now the Health and Counseling Center. And if we look further ahead, you now see that the College of Health Professions is a major new building planned to be built here where the currently Dow Health and the Glen House is located. You'll notice in this model, Linthicum Hall is gone, because once the Health Professions building is completed, Linthicum Hall will be demolished and replaced with an extension of the academic quad leading up to the core of campus. You can see in this model, the science building is constructed here along Route 1. We have even more improvements in the athletic precinct here with potential housing to be added back here. We have a student services building. So you can see comprehensively this model, we still have room to grow on campus, even without expanding beyond our borders. So again, this enrollment growth, back in about 10 years ago, our head count at Towson's campus was about 19,500. And our master plan, we do a master plan every 5 years. The last one was completed in 2015, and we are about to start updating that for 2020. But in 2010, when the last one was prior to 2015, our headcount on the campus was 19,500. And when we studied the capacity of our current campus, we determined that a responsible goal was about 25,000 students, and that is headcount on our campus. Our actual enrollment growth may be projected to be higher than that. We could be close to 27 or 28,000, but that can include students at satellite facilities like Hartford Community College and Shady Grove and other places where Towson University has resources. But we've always planned on this campus accommodating about 25,000 student headcount. So we're at about 23,000 now. We haven't grown as much in the last several years, but still planning on eventually getting to 25,000 at Towson's campus. And again, I mentioned the master plan. This is the guide for everything. All of our growth is determined through planning. This is the 2015 master plan. It is due for a major update. But you can see here the contiguous 345 acres that we have. We've added a lot more green space. Some of the strategies with the planning is trying to keep all of the vehicular traffic on the major roads around the perimeter of campus. This allows us to minimize the traffic internal to campus. We still have University Avenue, which will always kind of come into campus and allow for service and access. But for the most part, the internal parking lots and roads are planned to eventually become either green space or future building sites in some cases. By keeping the parking on the perimeter, we've built parking garages over time. They're all located on the perimeter of the campus. That allows us to get efficient traffic into the garages. It also allows us to park efficiently with 5- and 6-story parking, allows us to take former parking lots and turn them into building sites. So we add green space and we add future building capacity by building structured parking on the perimeters of campus. A lot of the buildings here, the dark gray were existing buildings and the terracotta color are projected buildings. And because this plan is now 5 years old, we can see a lot of the terracotta buildings would now be gray. We've completed the BURDICK Hall expansion. The science building is nearly complete. So a number of these buildings shown as terracotta would actually be completed now. So the other thing we do in our planning is we not only look internal to campus and look at our own internal buildings and roads, but we look at the impact on the region, and we try to plan regionally with our surrounding neighborhoods and downtown Towson. This diagram shows that we really are connected. It's really only about a 10-minute walk from our campus center into the core of Towson campus. I'll talk more about how we're connecting to downtown Towson. But one of the issues over the 20 years of our growth has been the neighborhoods. And, on one hand, we're lucky. In some cases, we're surrounded by other institutions. We have St. Joseph's Hospital here, GBMC, Shepherd Pratt, all surrounding contiguous borders to our campus. But we also have a lot of neighborhoods. We have Rogers Forge to the south. We have Southland Hills to the north, Berkeley Square, and Wiltondale. So we're conscious of the impact of our growth, and it's been a challenge. We've had some town and gown issues over the years, particularly early in our growth when it was happening quickly. There certainly is an impact on some of the residential neighborhoods when students are trying to live in them. But I think over the years we've gotten better at being a better neighbor. We have built more housing on campus, and you're going to see that downtown Towson is also responding by providing more dedicated student housing. This alleviates the need for students to move out into the neighborhoods. Also, in working in partnership with Baltimore County, we have established ground rules and control that help mitigate the effect of students. So overall, I would just say that I think our relationship with the surrounding community has been much improved, and to some extent, they've accepted our growth. It's an asset to them as well. We're a big economic engine. We provide a lot of cultural resources, and in general, living in a university town or a college town is typically some of the best places to live in the country and often identified as some of the best places to retire. So that said, I'm going to go over what's happening in the next 10 years. And some of these projects, of course, are underway since this is 5 years ago. But I'm going to cover the new science building that's under construction. We've got our future health professions building here. We've got the University Union expansion and renovation here. We have the renovation of the Glen Towers residential. We have the eventual renovation of Smith Hall. Once science building is complete, they'll move out of Smith Hall, and that'll be renovated for the College of Visual and Communications. And we have a future parking garage and eventual bridge connecting over to the South Campus. We have a future student services building that will improve. This building will be intended to replace the functions in the enrollment services building currently so that it can be demolished and make room for more housing in the West Village. We also have several additional housing buildings planned kind of as needed. We have North Housing here shown on currently Lot 6, and we have the Glen Garage and Housing, which would be built on the parking lot just west of the current Glen Garage. And this would be housing built on top of structured parking, which would also facilitate a bridge, a pedestrian bridge across the Glen connecting over here to the main core of campus. So, 7 or 8 of these projects are underway and funded and will definitely happen. Several of the others may be more like legacy projects. The one thing about our master plan, we take the opportunity to put in here any project that might happen, even if we don't have a current specific plan for it to happen. This housing shown on the western portion of the property we own here is future housing that it might be for faculty or graduate students. It might be market housing. We don't have a specific need for this now, but we show it in the plan just because the potential to build there is possible. And what we found in the past is if we have a project that comes up and it isn't shown in our master plan, we have much more difficult time getting the community to agree with it and move on. We don't require their formal approval on projects, but that said, part of being a good neighbor is keeping them informed and keeping them involved in our planning. So again, looking at the model of campus, it shows three-dimensionally what some of this could potentially look like. You know, this is looking north, looking from the north. This is the College of Liberal Arts building. You can see Linthicum Hall is gone. The quad is extended. This is an early concept model for the College of Health Professions, which will anchor this corner here. This is a very large building. It's about 240,000 square feet, almost as large as the College of Liberal Arts, and yet a much smaller footprint. Again, conceptually in the future, and this is not definite, but this is an opportunity, we may choose to replace Prettyman and Scarborough with another academic building, which would give us an opportunity for a pedestrian gateway here at the corner. You can see in this model, the science building is constructed back here on lot 1. And we have future buildings here that are legacy buildings. There's no specific plan for these buildings yet, but they are intended to be placeholders for potential future buildings. Looking at the main entrance now off of Towson Boulevard, you can see conceptually the Union expansion here. And I'll show you an updated design for this. And this is the Student Services building, which is possibly where financial aid, the bursar's office, and other things could be. I don't know if you guys are seeing this yet, too. Okay. And then lastly, in the South Campus, used to be called the Academic Precinct because there's nothing back here except academic facilities, but we've now changed the name to the South Campus because there is potential other development here. Primarily housing is shown here currently. And this would be housing, again, built on top of a parking garage, which would replace and expand the parking capacities of Lot 14. This is showing a potential additional addition to the Towson Center, possibly a natatorium. The CQ Arena, of course, is constructed. Potential future expansion of United Stadium with additional resources on the west end. And then ongoing improvements to soccer, softball, athletic fields. Many of these are underway now. The soccer field has recently been completely replaced with turf, synthetic turf, I mean, and we are in the process of replacing the synthetic turf at United Stadium as well. This future garage and bridge, is meant to connect these parts of campus to avoid pedestrian conflicts with traffic and major busy roads. This bridge may end up actually going across here, and this is something we'll study further, but it might connect across to the Center for the Arts building and lead into campus that way. A couple of projects we recently have completed, you may or may not have been back to campus to see. We put a major addition on the south side of Burdick Hall. Burdick Hall had undergone 2 other renovations of the existing building, renovating all the mechanical systems in the gym and expanding the kinesiology areas on the north side of the building. But the final part of this project was a major addition on the south side, about 90,000 square feet. It almost virtually doubled the size of Burdick Hall. And this is for campus rec and intramural sports generally. This is a complement to the climbing wall that we built as a smaller addition to Burdick Hall back in 2002. So about 18 years later is this major addition. If you haven't been back to campus or had a chance to see it, this is definitely a building you want to visit. 90,000 square feet with two MAC courts below the building over here. There are Pilates and dance and yoga studios along the edge here overlooking the rec fields. This is a major challenge course patterned after a Ninja Warrior course, which is something that has been very popular now with students in physical fitness. Lots and lots of areas for cardio and strength training, renovations to the pool and better connections to the pool. So this is a major amenity for students. Towson's always believed that, the full education of a student includes physical wellness as well, something we promote. And this has become a highlight on future campus tours for future potential students. And another major component of this was the construction of the elevated walkway along the south edge of the building here that makes the connection to the Osler Bridge we built over to the West Village. I'll show you in one of the later models how we now have a continuous, uninterrupted, accessible walkway completely connecting the far west edge of campus with York Road. And this connecting piece was the last major piece connecting that elevated walkway. Another project we recently completed in the spring of 2018 was a complete renovation of the residence tower. This was originally constructed about 40 years ago on the north side of campus. Some of the earlier master plans proposed to demolish this building. It has always been a candidate for demolition because of its ugly, concrete, brutalist appearance from the 70s. It was in disrepair. The exterior of the building leaked. But when we really studied it further, we found it had good bones. We found that the layout of the rooms on each floor was very conducive to building community, something that was desirable. For anybody that's lived there or familiar with the building, you know, each floor has 4 quads in each corner of the building, and each quad has 4 double rooms with 2 students each. So you've got 8 students per quad, 32 students per floor, and about 400 students in the overall building. And this arrangement, if you move onto campus and you live in this building, you immediately have 1 roommate, so you make a friend. You have 6 other quad mates that share your corner of the floor, so you've got a group of 8 students that build a community. And then you've got resources on the floor for 32 students to be a group, and then the overall building has amenities. So that social structure of that type of residence hall was very modern, in some ways, you know, as up to date as any for building community and promoting collaboration. The building lacked public amenities. It didn't have any common space or multi-purpose rooms or lounges or study resources like current buildings do. So we added those on the ground level. We removed 1 whole level of concrete down here to open up the building and make it much more inviting on the ground level. We completely clad the exterior concrete with a new cementitious panel meant to replicate the colors of adjacent brick buildings. All of the windows were replaced. All the mechanical systems were completely replaced. And it's now become one of the more popular residence halls on campus. So, you know, I'm glad that we ended up saving this building. There was no other way to get this many beds in such a dense footprint in such a strategic location on the campus. Okay, so looking at what projects are currently underway, next up is the science building. This is the site for the science building, which is lot 1, just north of the 7800 building, right along York Road near the front of the campus. This building is scheduled to be complete at the end of this year. It's about 316,000 square feet. So it essentially will be the largest academic building that we have on campus. It's going to be larger than the College of Center for the Arts, which is about 300,000 square feet, and larger than the College of Liberal Arts, which is about 310,000 square feet. Towson seems to like our large buildings. When we get the opportunity to build a new building or renovate one, we put everything we can into it and you know, get as much out of it as possible. So when we did the Center for the Arts, for example, it was originally a 150,000 square foot building sort of in the center of this, and we put 4 additions around all sides of it and doubled the size of the building. The College of Liberal Arts, of course, is completely new construction, as is the science building. The science building originally started out as a planned renovation of Smith Hall. Smith Hall was built in the 60s and early 70s. It was originally built in 2 phases and was commonly known as Old Smith and New Smith, and really should be called Old Smith and Older Smith because they both were very old and in severe need of renovation. In the original planning and programming, we were going to add onto Smith Hall in this section here about 100,000 square feet. And the thinking at the time was if we built a big addition here, we could then move into the addition and do a 2-phased renovation of the existing building. And just the logistics of that were very impractical. We also found that, you know, the bones of this building did not lend itself to a new modern science building. The floor-to-floor heights and the amount of room for modern ductwork and hoods and infrastructure just wasn't there. And the logistics of trying to build a major addition onto this building while it was occupied and in use was really impractical, if not impossible. So after studying that thoroughly, we concluded that a new building was a much better answer. We selected this site, Lot 1, which was, again, one of our legacy sites shown in the earlier master plans. I'll tell you the challenge with this site and this building program is the size of the building. It's such a large building to go on this site. We wanted to be conscious of the impact on the Glen. We wanted to be conscious of the presence on York Road. And perhaps most important, we wanted to be conscious of the impact on Stevens Hall. We realized such a large building on this site was going to overwhelm our iconic building here, the original historic building on campus. This has always been our sort of postcard view, so we wanted to be careful that this building didn't completely overwhelm that. And I would say we've done the best we could. We were somewhat successful. It is still a very large building. But if you look at the rendering, and this is basically what it looks like today. I wasn't able to get back to campus to take any photographs, but if you were able to drive by or if you've been by recently, you can see that the exterior of the building is generally complete. And this is basically what it looks like. It's a 5-story building. But from this side on York Road and on the north along Stevens Hall, we wanted to conceal the size. So it's sunken underground as much as possible, and it really looks like a 3-story building from this side. And we were very careful that the height of this building was not taller than Stevens Hall. And the fact that Stevens sits up on this hill kind of allowed it to maintain its presence. But as you go around the building, we're going to see that it goes from a 3-story building to a 4-story building and eventually a 5-story building in the back. It's basically 2 large rectangles that surround a commons area that I'll show you pictures of that connect the 2 blocks together with a common study. We call it the Science Commons. And it's a major highway from students that are parking in the Glen Garage coming up to campus. As you go around to the York Road side, you begin to see that the site slopes to the south and becomes a 4-story building on the south side. These bay windows are student lounges and study areas and lab write-up spaces where there'll be a lot of activity, a lot of science on display. You'll see on a lot of our newer buildings, we really take advantage of transparency and glass. We want to have as much glass as we can to get daylight into the building during the day, but then at night, to have the buildings almost act as lanterns on the campus and light up the campus. It also then at night shows the activity within buildings, which is what we like to do. So around on the south, this is a photograph of the prior existing conditions where I'm standing in front of 7800 looking at the Glen Garage. This was Lot 1, where students would daily come from this garage and walk right up this hill. It's not quite shown, but we called this the double black diamond stair that used to be over here. It's a steep stair that takes you up to Stevens Hall here. Well, eventually, when the new building, it's there today, this is what it looks like now. There's a major entrance into the building, and you go in through the building and go up through the building and come out the other side. And these are the two large 5-story blocks I told you about surrounding a central commons, which I'll show you. And then as you get around to the west side of the building where it faces the Glen, it finally reveals to be a 5-story building. And this way, the overall size of the impact of the size of the building is mitigated because it's up against the parking garage and doesn't impose upon Stevens Hall. There's an outdoor classroom that will be used to facilitate connections to the Glen and outdoor instruction, along with a double classroom here on the lower level that could also be an event space. And once again, the use of the bay windows where student lounges are with a lot of daylighting and a lot of activity. There's a greenhouse on the top level here. There's also another observatory, which will be on the roof of the building, as well as an updated planetarium within the building. So look for future events in those facilities. On the interior, I mentioned this is a view of the commons from the north as you come in. You get this multi-story skylit atrium spaces that connect the 2 spots. And throughout the building, some of the idea is science on display, where there'll be glass walls looking into labs. But these areas are all designed for student activity and student hangout and student study and group work and collaboration. We found over the years that the modern academic building the spaces outside of the classrooms are just as important, if not more so, than the spaces within the classroom. We want students to stay in the buildings and hang out and run into teachers and faculty. So unlike the buildings that were built in the 70s, which are not much more than a corridor and classrooms, these interstitial spaces outside of the classroom are just as important to learning. So this is a view as you come in on the south side by 7800 on the second level, and you go up the steps and out on the third level to the north. This commons area has a series of bleachers for students to hang out in, but it's also designed to be an event space. So this is looking back to the south. This is that door that we were just standing at coming in. There's a large multimedia wall that can show presentations, movies, ongoing display. If we have a speaker down here doing a Science Saturday or any other kind of presentation, we can fit almost 300 to 400 people in this space watching a presentation. So we're excited about this opening this December. First instruction will really be in the spring semester in 21. Moving on quickly to the University Union, this building is about 40 years old and was built at a time when our student population was 8,000 students. So it certainly has outgrown its needs. That said, its location in the center of campus made it a good candidate for renovation. And it was really impractical to demolish the building and not have a union for the number of years it would take to replace it. So the program for this project was a complete renovation of the existing building and about a 90,000 square foot addition onto the north side of the building here. The addition would include a new ballroom, a new major food market, which I'll show you. The overall budget for this project is about $110,000. The addition and the new expansion will be opening in the summer of 21. And then once that is open, we'll be able to move out of portions of the existing building and do its renovation. And that's scheduled to be completed about a year later in the summer of 22, roughly. Part of this addition, though, is going to involve this major plaza on the north side of the building connecting to this Towson Way walkway I had mentioned earlier, which is our big east-west connector. BURDICK Hall is just off the screen here to the left. If you look at a photograph of what the north side of the Union had looked like before, it had always been a loading dock and a lower level parking lot. And it was always unfortunate as we reoriented the front door to campus to the north here and you drove onto campus, this is the view that you always had of the Union. You always felt like you were looking at the back of it. So the plan is to put the big addition on this side of the building, and the addition comes out over top of this parking lot. This parking lot will remain under the building, as well as a plaza that will come out and connect to the walkway that we're standing on where this photograph is taken. So this is a rendering of what the finished project will look like. I actually haven't been able to get back to campus in several weeks, but I think the framing for all of this is now underway, if not nearly complete. So you're beginning to see the boxes of what's going on. This is the major ballroom up top with the lobby space surrounding the outside of the ballroom that will serve as pre-function space and also as student lounges and study areas when there aren't events in the ballroom. The lower level fronting onto this plaza is the food market. And the food market has these glass garage doors that'll open up. We've taken really what is 3 or 4 separate food venues in the Union, the Susquehanna Room, the Patuxent Room. A number of these different rooms are either open or closed. And when they are closed for dining, all of the seating and dining areas are also closed. So the new strategy is to consolidate these into one large market. The food venues themselves can close, but the seating and open space surrounding the market are always open. And the relationship with this plaza and how it forms the heart of campus, you can see BURDICK in the background over here. Really, through all of our master planning over the years, this has always kind of been the heart of campus and intended to be the real gathering place and social center that the University Union should be. This was an early watercolor rendering showing this. The tiger that's currently in the oval on the lawn that I know is affiliated with the Alumni Association is proposed to possibly be moved a tiny bit south so that it'll now be on the hardscape plaza. It'll be a little more accessible for people walking by and be a little photo opportunity as it is today. But instead of being in the center of the lawn, it'll now be part of this improved hardscape plaza that's all over top of the parking lot. So you have to understand that parking lot still exists below all of this. But this is really going to become probably the most dramatic change, I think, on campus that I've seen in my history there. And it's interesting that we've been waiting for this for 15 years. We've done all these other projects. We did the College of Liberal Arts building right here, and we did the BURDICK building. All the pieces around this project have been completed, and this is kind of the last piece of the puzzle for this part of campus. We're also improving the south side of the Union, where there isn't currently an entrance here, but this will become a main entrance. And we're envisioning a lot of people that will park in the Union garage, and many times first-time visitors to campus may be coming to campus for the first time for a tour or a visit, or even an alumni who may be coming back for the first time in a long time, could be directed to park in the Union garage, and entering the Union here will be their first exposure to Towson. So as you go into the Union, there's an information desk, there's a mural with a history of Towson, a really improved amenity here with the Union. These are some interior renderings of the food market I mentioned. These are the 3 doors beyond that will open up to the plaza. Each of these varieties, there's 8 different food venues in the building that can be changed and updated over time, and they can all be opened or closed independently. They'll have roll-down grates that will allow any one or all of them to be open. But most important, when any of these food venues are not open, all of the seating and the collaboration space for students will always be available. A variety of seating types, a variety of food types. If anybody's been to Mount Vernon Market or our house in Remington, this is kind of the model that we chose to copy here for this amenity. A lot more flexibility and a lot more variety for the students. This is a rendering of the ballroom on the 3rd level. This will seat approximately 800 seated for a banquet style event, or 1,200 for a seated lecture event. It's about 1.5 times the size of the West Village ballrooms when they are all open together. And I'll mention the West Village. I don't know if anybody's been to those ballrooms there, but that was originally a multi-purpose room, a student resource, and never thought to be a public event space. And that's what it's been used as over the years, because it's such a versatile and really the best room we have on campus for those types of events. But the finishes and the lighting and the ceiling were never really designed to be a real ballroom. This one, on the other hand, will be intended for that. So this is going to be where a lot of high-end events can occur. It's subdividable into 6 different rooms if we want to have smaller events. We use it for student resources as well. So this will be something that we just haven't had on campus. I don't have a rendering, but another amenity in the renovated Union will be a movie theater that seats about 300. And that's going to replace the 1/2 of the existing Chesapeake room. And that'll be not only for movies, but available for lectures, other types of events. Another project that's just nearing completion now, scheduled to open this summer, is a complete renovation of the Glen Dining Hall. This was a complete gut renovation. We kept the skin, all of the glass box and everything was an amenity that we saw, but new lighting. There's a new mezzanine that's built inside of the Glen Dining. And a lot like the Union, we took the food line, which used to be concealed in the back here, and pulled it out into the dining space. So there are now, again, 5 or 6 different food venues available, intermixed with the seating area. This is the mezzanine above. And the strategy here, among other things, is for this to be flexible so that it can serve as an all-you-can-eat dining hall in a more traditional way. But if they choose, they can also serve individually as a retail-type food court. You can go up and buy something at any one of these food venues and pay at the place rather than buy an all-you-can-eat meal. So it's totally flexible how we would choose to operate the dining halls. And we've really found over time that today's students don't particularly like to swipe into a dining hall twice a day and for the all-you-can-eat. It's just not the way students eat today. They like to graze over time. They might have 5 or 6 small meals throughout the day. They may want to go get a yogurt and a bagel in the morning and have a salad at late afternoon. And So this gives them a lot more flexibility, not only for how we would choose to serve food, but how students would choose to eat and buy their food through the board plans. We're completing design right now on a complete renovation of the Glen Towers, and very similar to what we did on the residence towers. These will be completely covered over in a new terracotta tile to coordinate and go with the brick on campus, all new glass windows, completely new mechanical systems. These will be renovated one at a time. We will take one building down at a time for a year and renovate it. And then once that one's done, we'll move on to the next one. So this is a 4-year phased project scheduled to begin construction on Tower C this summer. So that's going out to bid right now. But once again, this will not only make these buildings much more energy efficient and more modern in terms of their operation and functionality, but really be a better looking addition to campus. I can't tell you how many times people have asked me when those buildings are going to be completed, because they're just the old concrete of the 70s and 80s just doesn't cut it anymore. The College of Health Professions. Currently, our College of Health Professions is located in 7 or 8 different facilities throughout campus. Towson University is the largest producer of nurses in the University of Maryland system. So we have a thriving college that has been growing leaps and bounds over the years. The College of Health Professions building has been in our master plan for years, but just due to funding and scheduling, it's just now come up for funding. But so what's happened over the years is they continue to move into and backfill a lot of the older buildings on campus that other people have moved out of. They're primarily in Linthicum Hall currently. I should mention, for anybody that doesn't know, Stevens Annex has been demolished finally and is gone. This is now a beautiful lawn. I wish I had a photo to show you. But Linthicum Hall is primarily the home of College of Health Professions now, but yet they've got presence in Van Bachman with speech and language. Kinesiology is in BURDICK. Some of occupational therapy had been in enrollment services. They've got this Institute for Wellbeing up at the Towson City Center. And they've got some kinesiology and Towson Center. So for the first time with a new building, they're going to all be located in one place. And again, per the master plan, it's located right here opposite the academic quad from the College of Liberal Arts. So all of our early planning had envisioned that these 2 buildings would anchor the main academic quad on campus. I mentioned it's about 230,000 square feet. Has a project budget of about $165 million, scheduled to be complete construction in December of 2023. We're going to begin construction on this project summer of 2021. We are currently in design, early design, I'll say, but it's going to go out to bid in the spring of 21. And some of the planning for this project not only includes this large 6-story building footprint here on the building site, but also the renovation of the academic quad once Linthicum Hall is gone. And you can see in this picture, Linthicum Hall is no longer in this plan. One idea is to create an amphitheater here. This is a steep terrace. I mean, Linthicum Hall, you enter level 2 on the south and exit level 1 on the north. So there's one full story of grade change here to take advantage of. And the idea is that the improvement to the quad will lead to a west porch, which will then lead into the building. So this building will flow in and out of itself from the quad here, as well as have a front door facing the north. Another amenity that we're planning for this building are 3 terrace roof gardens that would overlook the quad and overlook this amphitheater, really promoting health and wellness and sustainability. So 3 different gardens that would be used in conjunction with the academic programs in the building. And this is just, again, an early concept model showing how the building steps down to the southwest, mitigating the scale and size of the building. Being such a large building, facing the north and the front door, it'll be a 6-story building, but where it's adjacent to other buildings on campus, it'll step down a bit. But this shows a potential amenity of an amphitheater built here, along with these roof terraces looking down over the quad, and the west porch with the very open glass entrance to the building here on the southwest corner. So that's it for campus for now. And I know I'm running a little behind, so I'm gonna try to finish this up quickly. I did want to show you what's going on in downtown Towson as well, because as we've grown, Towson has responded, and there are a number of private projects that are building housing for our students. We are not connected to these projects in terms of any kind of financing, and we don't commit students. These are just purely market housing that developers are building to accommodate our students. And there's 3 projects I'll show you, 2 for students and 1 that isn't. 101 York Road, Towson Row, and the Towson Circle project. I'll also mention here that many of you know we have a presence at Olympic Place. Our Institute for Wellbeing with the Hussman Center for Adults with Autism is up here. Our Speech and Hearing Clinic is located up here. And I'll show you that we've also recently purchased a building in downtown Towson for administrative functions. But the first project, this 101 York Road, is going just north of the originals shown as the Marriott here. Many of you may know, and I didn't mention that we have converted the Marriott into student housing. It's now called the 10 West building, and that's here. So it no longer operates as a hotel. We have about 400 student beds in this building that are geared more towards transfer students. But this site right here was collected over the years by a developer who has now built a student housing project there. This is what it's going to look like. It's under construction. It's all framed up. If you drive down York Road, you'll pretty much see this building. It doesn't have all of the skin on. It was originally planned to open this summer, but I think they're behind schedule. I'd be very surprised if they're able to do that. This will have about 800 student beds and about 600 parking spaces in a garage beneath the building. So these students will be intended to walk right across the street to campus. This is the 10 West former Marriott building right here, and the Starbucks is here on the corner. But one of the biggest attributes of this building for us is making the connection on York Road. This is not a pleasant walk currently. The Jiffy Lube and some of the other miscellaneous retail are along here, and this will really improve the walking path from our campus up York Road into downtown Towson. Another project underway, Towson Row, is a major 4-block project that was acquired by a developer. It's being built in phases. The first phase is a student housing building being built right here for another 800 student beds. I'll tell you that there's going to be a Whole Foods grocery store right here, future office building here, a future hotel here. This is a major mixed-use redevelopment of this entire block. And Towson University is leasing the Armory right here on the northwest corner. I'll show you a little bit more about that. And this 401 Washington is the building that we purchased. So this building will be used for Towson University administrative resources and non-academic uses. But it's right across the street from the Towson Armory, so we will have some real continuity there with resources for students and networking and opportunities for community engagement right across the street from the courthouse. So this was a very strategic purchase for us. The building's in need of renovation, so we got a good deal on it. But that said, we will renovate it for our use over time. This is a rendering of the future student housing to go there. I mentioned 800 beds. There's a pool on the roof. These private developments that are competing, they have to provide amenities to make them attractive for students. This is a watercolor rendering of the Armory, and again, a conceptual image of the interior. It's basically a gymnasium, but we're going to turn it into a co-working networking space called Startup. This is where student entrepreneurs and graduate programs could possibly have entrepreneurial company startups. We will lease space to other potential entrepreneurs and people that we will network with, and it'll be a co-working space where the Towson University business community can engage with Towson University students and resources. This is scheduled to open at the end of this year. And then lastly, Towson Circle up at the north edge of town in the old Hustlers building. I'm dating myself. I've lived here for most of my life, so I know this building as the old Hustlers building. But you can see the changes here that are pretty much constructed. The retail along here is underway, but the Avalon housing, which is not student housing, this is market housing for professionals and people that make more money than students, that's for sure. But the biggest change is along Joppa Road. On both sides of Joppa Road will be street front retail, really creating more of a downtown atmosphere in Towson. This is a plan just showing all the retail being aligned along the base of the Hustlers building, all along York Road here, connecting eventually to the mall over here. This is a rendering with a section cutting through showing what it's going to look like. So that's all I got for now. I'm sorry I didn't leave more time for questions, but I'm happy to take what we have time for. As you can see, this model of us in 2027 is something that, most of this stuff is going to come into fruition. I think that, with the exception of a couple of legacy buildings that haven't been identified yet, most of what we see on this model is either planned or in many cases funded. So it's been an exciting time. It's been a busy 24 years. When I came here, I never dreamed I'd be here this long, but they've just kind of kept us busy, and it's been a nonstop, exciting job, and looks to continue to be so for the next 10 years. So, okay.
Okay, thank you, David. I know we are on a timeline, so we do have some questions from the audience so far. Just a reminder to all the participants, if you do have a question, make sure you use the chat window to the bottom right of your screen, and make sure the 2 says all participants. The first question we have is from Tracy Miller, and the question is, can the ballroom floor be converted to a dance floor? She's talking specifically, I think, about the ballroom in what will be the reconstructed University Union.
Yep, and that's a great question, and the answer is yes. We studied this a lot. There was a lot of discussion about whether the floor should be wood or carpet, and we went back and forth. At one point, we had all wood floor, and another time we had the middle section as wood. We eventually decided that the most versatile and practical solution was to have a portable wood dance floor. So we have storage for that built into the facility behind this wall. And effectively, a wood floor can be brought out and assembled. It will take up not quite a third, but almost a third of the room. So for events where perhaps we would want to have a dance floor, we'd have carpeted seating on either side. It can also be put anywhere in the room, which made it more versatile. And we really found that carpeting, served many more types of events in terms of its acoustic properties, its maintainability, the ability to update it and change it over time. So carpet ended up winning out as the default material, but we do have a large wood dance floor that's part of the building, and the storage for it is built in, and it will be used. So yes.
Okay, our second question is from Jeff Korber. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. He wants to know, he said, I heard a rumor that Glen-esque is going to be moved to near the Towson Garage and Residence Hall. Is that the official plan?
No, we studied that extensively. And I will tell you, we are all very sensitive to Glen-esque. We know the history of it, and, it's been on the campus for quite a while. At one point, it was the president's house. And I'll tell you, we studied building this College of Health Professions building around Glen-esque, which was difficult. Let's see if I can get to a better slide here. And, basically trying to keep Glen-esque and let it exist on the site with the health professions was impractical because of building the building around it. Trying to wrap the building around Glen-esque here made that difficult. We then studied moving it to this parking lot right here, lot 6. I can zoom in here. I'm sorry. Anyway, we did study moving it to lot 6, and that just proved to be cost prohibitive. By the time we moved it and built a new foundation and relocated it, it was going to be in the millions of dollars. So it wasn't really the best use of state resources. And also programmatically, we weren't quite sure what it would want to become. At one point it was discussed to maybe be a cafe or even an alumni resource, but the building is not currently accessible, doesn't have an elevator. The mechanical systems are outdated with window air conditioners. All of those things would have to be taken into account in moving and renovating the building, which is really what made it not feasible. So the current plan is, along with Dow Health, it will be demolished probably in the summer of 21 when we begin construction on the College of Health Professions.
Okay, thank you, David. I don't see any other questions in the bottom chat. If you have one, drop it in there quickly. I know David actually has another meeting he's got to get to, so we appreciate his time for this webinar today. And let me see, don't see anything coming, so, okay.
Well, I'll tell you, if anybody has questions, don't hesitate to email them in to Jenna, and I'm happy to try to respond to questions anytime. I know that people hear things and hear rumors or have questions, or you might come back to campus and see something and just wonder about it. So don't hesitate to connect and stay connected. And hopefully I'll see you all on campus sometime. I enjoy doing these on campus. Many times, if you're able to come back for a reunion, depending on the date of the reunion, we'll do a campus tour. It's really enjoyable for me to do 50-year reunions with some people who might not have been back to campus in a long time. One of the funny things is I'm taking them around campus and anxious to show them all the new buildings and all the new facilities. And in many cases, they're most interested in seeing Newell and Richmond or Stevens Hall, or seeing the buildings that they remember living in and the buildings that were here when they were here. So hopefully we'll get an opportunity to meet someday in person on campus.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. And if you do have any questions, feel free to send them my way. I'll make sure David gets them and pass the answers along to you or connect you directly with him. So this concludes our webinar, Building the Campus of the Future. David, thank you again for joining us. I hope everyone enjoyed this presentation. Make sure you follow the TU Alumni Association on our social media channels and on Tiger Connect, our alumni community. These details are posted in the chat window and will be shared in a follow-up email. We hope you can all join us for another one of our live events and webinars. You can learn more about these events at alumni.towson.edu. Next Tuesday, we will be hosting a webinar on Inside the World of Filmmaking with 4 TU alumni panelists, including Shelley Strong, Head of Physical Production at Amblin Partners. Thank you, and we hope to see you again next time.